Hello and welcome. It's a good day to be on the farm. This is Chuck, and welcome back to Calmsden episode 3. In the last episode, we baled up both of these really large fields. We're still on day 1 in this game because you do start with so many fields in Calmsden on the beginner mode, where you get the farmhouse and 3 tractors and all the things. I did have to slow time down significantly to make sure we got both of these harvested in August so nothing withered on us, and we were able to get all the material off the field. So anyway, in this episode we're going to be picking up these bales on this trailer and selling some of the straw. Look at all those bales. Selling some of the straw but saving a little bit back as well. So I'm going to go ahead and add in a time lapse here of picking up some loads, and then I will meet you guys at the sale point as we get to see how much we're going to make off of these first couple of loads of bales. Hang in there. Thanks. Alright guys, welcome back. We are just finishing our second load of straw bales off of the fields. We finished getting all the straw off that barley field, and now we've gotten the first round of bales off of this wheat field. I did look at our statistics to see how many bales in total we created, and I believe it was 80 straw bales from those 2 fields. Like I said, these fields are pretty big, and these are big bales too at 8,000 liters each. So it's a lot of weight we're pulling here, but luckily this Fendt seems up to the challenge. I did, in that time lapse, drop off the first load of 28 bales already at the bale point, but not inside the bale point. That's what I really like about these auto loaders. It makes it easier to get a concise number on your sales, because I would never pick up 14 bales with the little trailer and then stack them and then unstack them and then repick them up and stack them. But for videos, I feel like the auto loader is better, because I can drop off these 28 and then I can just back up and pick up the other 28, drop those off, and in less than 30 seconds, hopefully, we can see how much I made on those straw bales. I am going to keep the third load of bales, and if I did my math in my head correctly, I should have 24 bales left over, which is going to be just about perfect in case we want to do cows here after we get everything replanted. We can do that. or if we want to leave them on the trailer for later and we sell those, that's totally fine too. So anyway, I wanted you guys to be here as I sold these. Again, this is a profit that we can make off of the fields in addition to the harvestable grain, which we can sell here later in the year when the price goes up. There's my original stack of 28. Here's this one right here. And we're going to just pull up next to it. Nope, that's a bad idea. This trailer is a little hard to back up with, so let's see how well we can do this. It would be 30 seconds if I didn't mess up the backing up of the trailer, which I think it looks like I'm going to. So we're on there here, so we're going to sell our first load and drop it right here. And that is 24,037. And it's going to be quicker to go around than it is going to be to watch me try to back up this trailer. And we'll come through and grab that second load and hopefully get another 24,000, and that's just 48,000 off the bales we're selling, theoretically. Plus we're keeping in another 20 to 24 bales. Yeah, and see, that's what I love about the autoloader. Boom. There is our stack. Now we can pull off to the right again. We have enough room to drop this on there. We're going to sell that. We're going to drop it right here. And another 24,000. A little bit less on that second round for whatever reason. We must have killed the market already. But if we look in our money stats here, now for sold bales, 48,078. Not too shabby. Alright, I'm going to go back and pick up the rest of these bales, and then we'll go ahead and store them somewhere. But I appreciate you guys tuning in for that. Just wanted to make sure I shared that profit with you so you knew where some of our money was coming from. Alright, take care. Alright, well, as you can see, we've gotten the trailer parked up here, and we're coming back over to where we dropped off this last load of bales in, well, next to the shed here, and we're going to grab the JCB telehandler. And I've never actually used this one before, but I do really like it. I've seen a couple of YouTubers that I watch that are doing Calmsden episodes, and it seems to be a really nice telehandler. In fact, I don't use telehandlers very much, and I should really use them more because I do have trouble stacking things, so it makes sense to get one of these that does make it easier. And so we're going to go ahead and move some of this straw, I think these 24 bales that we had left, into this straw barn. And we're just going to carefully angle around here and try to... Oh, camera's doing some weird stuff. Yeah, and don't hit the beam. We're going to just try to angle in here and get this placed back in the back here. And I think the key to driving with these telehandlers, or at least when you have stacks of bales on it like I do, is to just make lots of slow movements. So our goal here is to get 3 stacks across the back, so that's why I'm hugging the walls so tight, trying to make sure we've got room for all of these in here. Obviously this is a kind of a really nice, authentic looking straw barn. and the JCB was parked up in the left-hand side, but once we get those tools moved out as well here, probably at the end of the episode or in the next episode, then we can actually start storing maybe some hay in the left side where we have straw over here on the right, or maybe even some silage at some point, because in this game actually we were given not only 3 giant fields, and this farmhouse and the yard and the 2 sheds. We're also given the straw shed, but we're given grass fields as well. So there's, I don't know, 2 or 3 grass fields on this map. Obviously this has been a very involved August, more than I usually do on a game, because we're just trying to get everything off the fields so that we can advance the next day. And then so I guess there hasn't been a whole lot of thought that we've had to like put into planning on this map, which is very different. Normally, if you've been watching my flower farm series at all, in Erlengrad, that's where I like to kind of take the money and go find a field and start with nothing. I mean, obviously $1.5 million is not nothing, but you know what I mean? Like, start with no established land, no established farmyard, and no equipment, and just kind of build up from there. Just see what you can kind of come up with. That's typically how I play farming sim. So this map is a departure from that, because you're given so much in the beginning, and it is really cool because the farmyard looks so much better than any farmyard I've ever been able to make in Farm Sim, because when I'm placing buildings and everything, I always mess up the terrain somehow, accidentally raise or lower the land somewhere inadvertently when I'm placing a building, or it makes it really bumpy to get out of the barn, or the barn's not angled quite right, and that makes it hard to get from the barn to the cow shed or whatever. So I do really enjoy playing maps like this where all that stuff is sort of built in, but it's sort of prescribed to, if you understand, if that makes sense. Like, because yeah, there was no choice but to start harvesting in episode 1. Like, we just had to. And there were 2 giant fields, and they were both ready, which is amazing, because now we have grain that we can store. So there's income coming at the end of this year, which normally in my farms I don't make money until year 2 usually, because that's just kind of how it works, or any significant money I should say. I mean, a lot of times I buy one field that's ready to harvest and rent a harvester, or buy a harvester and get that off, or sometimes start with grass and get some of that silage sold in year 1, but for the most part it doesn't start moving forward till year 2 or thereabouts. So anyway, yes, we're going to get the second layer stacked just like the first layer, 3 across if we can do it. That way we've got room to get basically 3 layers here built in into the shed with the straw. Anyway, what was I talking about? So with the great start that you have, you don't get a whole lot of choice, but I think it's a good payoff to obviously, number one, have that grain stored for us, so that we can make some decisions on what we're going to do once we sell that stuff in December and January when the price is better, or save some of that and start animals. And that's where I think these maps really shine, which I think I talked about a little bit before, but the animal pens are really nice in maps like this, because I believe if we do sheep on this map, in that sheep pasture, it's like an actual field size rather than just like a little rectangular fenced in area, like I was doing in my how like grass and sheep explained, or sheep and cows oh my video I think I did. So I did like an hour-long tutorial, if you haven't seen it, where I kind of broke down how to do sheep and cows, and therefore grass care. So I talked about mowing, and I talked about making hay and doing all those things in that video. And then at the very end I was starting to explain how TMR worked, But then I can only record 60 minutes at a time on the setup that I have right now. And I got cut off like right in the middle of TMR, but that's okay because I actually explained it wrong. So I was able to go back and make a second video explaining TMR like a week later. So now if you ever were trying to make TMR with a grass bale, don't, because that's not how you do it. And also I do have a better video out there explaining TMR for cows and milk for them, and then also sheep. And I tried to make the sheep one shorter because I had already spent an hour talking about grass care and things in that longer video, if that's what people are looking for. So I don't know, I hope that 10-minute sheep video is a little nicer to get people started, but I digress. The nice thing about the 10-minute, or the nice thing about the sheep on this map is instead of being locked in a little, you know, orange fenced area that's probably like 30 meters by 30 meters or something, which isn't really what you would want your sheep to do. You want them to graze and to get some exercise. This map is oh, hold on. So close. That's what happens when you start driving fast with one of these. So it was bound to happen anyway, but now I can at least pick those up and stack them over here. At least we have established our kind of straw area at this point. But the sheep pasture on this map is huge. Like it's an entire field, and because of the way that Oxygen David was able to set it up in the map, you can actually see the sheep grazing in the field. So like they don't actually eat the grass, but it's much more realistic farming, or realistic livestocking, if that's a word, to see those sheep out in that field and wandering around. They look much more comfortable. You don't feel bad for them being locked up in a tiny orange pen. So that's why like this kind of farm, I think once we get going on it, the goal is really going to be maybe to do a little more livestock, because that's what this map is sort of designed for. Pardon me while I try to get this thing flipped over so I can stack it correctly. Just try to balance it. I'm moving the bottom one more than I'm moving the top one. So I guess we'll just maybe drop this and then try to pull it off by backing up here. See if we can get it. There we go. Oh, yep, there we go. Yeah, and so we'll just get this stacked back up on top there. Yep. Slow and steady. Just a little bit, a little higher. There we go. Yeah, so you get to see my telehandling skills. I mean, this is going a lot better than I thought it was going to go, to be honest. I don't use a telehandler very much, but I think I'm going to start using them more because they're way easier than doing this with a tractor. I think they've just got a little bit more precise turning, which is helpful. But anyway, so I think this map would be great for livestock, is basically what I'm trying to say as I ramble through stacking this straw. But I don't know what kind of livestock I want to do. There is a cow pen right over there where we parked our trailer, our bale loading trailer. So it'd be nice to have cows here too. And it is a nice looking cow pen, but I don't know, I really like the sheep grazing in the pasture aspect of this map. So I think I will probably end up doing at least some sheep just because I want to see the sheep in the pasture. I think that's going to be just kind of a fun way to enjoy this part of the map, and something that you don't normally get to do in a farm sim map, or at least not one of the ones that comes with the games. I know lots of people describes not the word. Lots of developers. There we go. A lot of developers make maps that have cool animal pens on them. So that's a good thing. But I'll probably end up doing cows on here too. That's why I'm saving this straw, so that obviously we can bed down the cows. Or I might skip cows and do pigs, because to be honest, I don't do pigs very often. Just because you have to have so many different crops. and unfortunately, of the crops that I grew, or that were given to us on this map, to start, wheat and barley, I believe. I'm already forgetting now what we harvested, but wheat and barley, those are good for some things, but not really pig food, in my understanding. We need like a base food like corn or sorghum to kind of get them started, and then you feed in other things to kind of feed out that percentage or fill out that percentage. So that is a good thing we'll probably do eventually on this map, maybe. Depending. Obviously, we're going to start with the sheep and then kind of work our way up from there. And I did actually start chickens a little bit ago in this map. So hey, look at that. Those stacks actually look pretty good. Alright, so we're going to skip back out to the field here. We're now laying lime in our large field, field 3, because this one needs to be limed as well. So as you can see, north of us there is field 2, and that's the one that we limed between harvesting, but I believe that footage made it into episode 2, not into episode 1, so it was a little bit out of order, but I just needed to break from harvesting because, again, giant fields. So we've got to get this one limed up, and I'm just kind of working north to south as we go. So we'll definitely be planting that north field here soon. And then as we work our way south to get these other 2 fields going, we'll obviously lime this one first, and then eventually we'll get down to field 6 and lime that one as well. But we'll probably, I would guess, cultivate this one before we lime the next one. Or something, I don't know exactly, but we're just sort of working our way down. Obviously we want to rotate these fields a little bit as we're preparing, but yeah, so I guess as what I was talking about before is what animals we want to put in here, what livestock we want to have added to this, and I think definitely probably the sheep, because we do have grass fields, and I just really like the sheep as they have that pasture. Plus, I don't know if any of you who have watched Clarkson's Farm on Amazon Prime, but where Jeremy Clarkson decides to become a farmer. It's a really great series, highly recommended, especially for people like us who like farm sim. There's lots of cool things going on there. So hold on, let me get caught up here. Sorry about that. Slight technical difficulty. It's been solved now. Anyway, I was saying Clarkson's Farm is a really great show. And Jeremy had sheep, and I thought that was interesting. And he said they brought a lot of life to the farm, and they kind of did, or at least to that show. So as I'm doing a farm like this in Calmsden, in England, these plots kind of remind me a little bit of the farm up there that he was working. And anyway, I don't know. I'd like to maybe add in some of that here too. So anyway, I think sheep is probably the first way I'm going to go. But then we have to start talking about crop rotation for the pigs, and we have to figure out what we want to put in these fields that would be good for the pigs, because we don't have really anything that would feed them right away. But what I was saying was I did get chickens. In between the harvest, I took 1 load of, I think, wheat over there and dumped it into the chicken enclosure just to get started on that, so I wouldn't have to haul it over later. But you can't dump food in unless you buy the animals, because the amount you can take in the feed trough is based on the animals that you have in the enclosure. So anyway, I ended up buying some chickens. I think you could have up to 100 chickens. I think I bought 60, but now that was several hours ago of gameplay, so I can't remember. But regardless, we do have some chickens here, and that's great. We'll go ahead and start with with that. But I mean, sheep is definitely probably on the list, and then after that, we're gonna certainly look at cows or pigs or something to go with our chickens, because I think that's what will kind of set this map apart from some of the other ones, is the cool animal enclosures and managing those things, as well as managing these large fields. And then the question really is, do we want to expand the fields on this one, or is it going to be enough work just keeping these 3 fields going? Because these are 3 pretty beefy fields, hectare wise, and trying to figure out how we want to manage that. So if we decide to do livestock, I'm sure we'll just stick with these 3 big fields to start. If we decide to pursue a different approach, maybe we will take that field off in the distance there, field 5. That field is bigger than all of the fields that I have right now, definitely bigger than this one we're doing right here, which I think is almost 8 hectares, and obviously our largest field. So anyway, but let me know what you guys want to see in this series going forward. Obviously, the first several episodes, probably 6 or 7 episodes, are just going to be getting these fields turned. Obviously, we spent one on the harvest and then a second one on baling, and now we've got those bales put away and we're working on liming and prepping the fields. I'm sure we'll have to cultivate, and then we'll be planting and trying to get all that stuff done here. So what I'm trying to do right here is just cut off a nice north and south run for the lime, and do this sort of weird parts around the edges manually, but then I can hire a worker for this big rectangle in the middle. So what I tend to do on large fields like this that are abnormally shaped is you need to sort of work your way into them, and eventually on a farm this size where I have multiple tractors, I end up hiring workers to finish off fields for me, but I usually get them started like so, and then we're going to just kind of loop around here. And try to add another headland. I don't know if it's called a headland when you do it backwards like I am. I know the actual way to farm would be to run the middle of the field first, cover as much of that as you can, and then you go do the headlands last, so you're not driving over. Like you can see my tire tracks over there in, actually that's from where no, there shouldn't be any tire tracks if I already limed it. So yeah, normally you don't want to see tire tracks in the area that you just limed. No, I guess those tire tracks are showing up where I just drove, so I guess it doesn't matter. But when you're planting, obviously you don't want to drive over the ground you just planted, or when you're cultivating, you just prepared that dirt to work for planting. You don't want to then compact that soil again by driving over it with a tractor. So I tend to do it backwards in this game, just because it helps me to sort of section off the field like I'm doing here. It also helps me to be able to hire a worker, because you can't really hire a worker just to do the edges in this game. They're not smart enough for that. So you have to kind of do it backwards if you plan to use workers, which I end up using on large fields like this just to get things done. Also because we have multiple tractors. Like if I only had one tractor, obviously I would do everything myself, but they gave us 3, and so 2 of them would just be sitting idle while I was doing one job. Or like when I harvested, obviously I did a headland myself to get it started, but then I hired a worker to start cutting across the field, and that way I could cart and run the second tractor, or run a tractor with a tipper to try to get the grain carted, as you saw in episode 1. I just find that that's a little bit easier workflow to kind of go back and forth and be able to do multiple things like that, which you just can't do if you're doing it all yourself. So that's, to me, what normal farmers do. They have help at harvest time, and so they have people out there running the combine, and running the tippers, or they have people carting for them while they're running the combine, just so that they can, get some progress made on those fields. Otherwise, it would just take forever. And things like harvesting, or things like what we're doing today, where we're turning fields real quickly, there's a time constraint on those. We only have August to get, we only had August to get the stuff off the fields and the harvester. So, we're pressed up against time. That's why we use workers. Now that we're prepping the fields, and it's, I think, 5 o'clock at night, then we're, obviously not in such a hurry, which is why we're doing this ourselves to start. But I do want to set it up with this nice rectangle in the middle that a worker can easily fill in for me. So we do these outside parts first, and that's usually a little bit easier to get set up. So yeah, that's kind of the plan, is, turn these fields pretty quick, probably put in some winter barley on one of the fields, to kind of keep that going, or some winter wheat, something that's going to give us some more straw, but also some more grain, and that way at least one field is growing over the winter as we prep the other two to plant in March, when we plant all our spring crop. So I don't know. I think 3 fields of this size is probably plenty to keep things going, but I'm not against expanding the farm to some of the other fields if we feel like that's the right way to go. We do have enough equipment for it with 3 tractors, that we could certainly manage a 4th field. It would just be more a matter of probably managing workers on those when we're trying to get cultivation done or planting done, and I'm missing on both sides. Let's just go over to the left here so we're not having to run 3 strips. So those are all kind of things you have to consider as you're trying to lay out these fields and decide what you want to do. But I guess the freedom in this is I haven't really had a chance to think about what I wanted to make this farm into during the first couple of episodes, because I was just so frantically trying to get the harvest done and trying to get the equipment flipped over, so I could use equipment that I wanted. Obviously, I wasn't going to do all of those straw bales and round bales like with the little round baler they gave us. That is just too much work. I mean, that would have been 2 hours of baling, and then moving those is kind of a pain too. I do tend to do round bales in a lot of my other series and episodes, specifically on my No Man's Land one right now, which is not actually a series. It's just the one that I have put a lot of hours in, just kind of making my own on No Man's Land. I started basically a silage farm on that, where I've got a really nice Kloss tractor, and I've got the Kloss bale wrapper, and so I was just making silage bales. So it was cutting in new fields, but in order to cut in new fields, I mowed everything first. So I had 1 round of silage bales going, and then I started cutting in the fields with a plow, and then added more silage bales because I ended up just replanting grass in those so that they would be fertilized, and then I'm getting even more off that, and just to try to generate some money in that, rather than doing forestry, which is what people tend to do in No Man's Land. And I did cut down a couple of trees that were just in the middle of my fields that I wanted, but haven't really played this game to do the forestry so much. So anyway, I wanted to do something different on this, and square bales are a lot faster, especially when you're dealing with this volume on these fields. So that's why I obviously went the square baler on this one. But I'm just starting to think about, well, what do I want this farm to actually look like when we're done? Is it going to be a livestock thing? Is it going to be an arable land thing where we're just going to try to do crops and turn the fields over in that? Is my goal to buy more fields, or be able to buy like this field 5 over here, which is probably $1 million. You know, it's just that big. Oop, driving through the hedge, but anyway, I appreciate you guys watching. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it. Give me a subscription if you want to see more content like this, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.